Welcome! Today we're going to make classic gingerbread cookies that are perfect for any festive occasion. So let's get ready to dive into making some delicious gingerbread cookies. Alright, let's gather everything we need for our gingerbread cookies. Start by grabbing 3 cups of all-purpose flour. Next, you'll need 1 teaspoon of baking soda and 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder for our leavening. For that gingerbread spice, we'll be using 1 tablespoon of ground ginger, 1 tablespoon of ground cinnamon, 1/2 teaspoon each of ground cloves and nutmeg, and don't forget a 1/2 teaspoon of salt to balance the flavors. Now for the wet ingredients. Get 3/4 cup of unsalted butter softened. Add to that 3/4 cup of packed dark brown sugar, 1 large egg, 1/2 cup of molasses, and a teaspoon of vanilla extract. For icing, you will need 1 cup powdered sugar, 1 to 2 tablespoons milk, and 1/2 teaspoon vanilla extract. That's everything we need. Let's get ready to mix. Let's start by preparing our dry ingredients. In a large mixing bowl, combine 3 cups of all-purpose flour, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder and all our spices, 1 tablespoon each of ground ginger and cinnamon, 1/2 teaspoon of ground cloves, 1/2 teaspoon of ground nutmeg, and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Whisk everything together until evenly distributed. Set that aside for now because we'll be combining it with our wet ingredients shortly. Now it's time to cream the butter and sugar. In a large mixing bowl, add 3/4 cup of softened, unsalted butter. Make sure the butter is soft enough to cream easily, but not melted. Add 3/4 cup of packed dark brown sugar to the bowl. Using an electric mixer, beat on medium speed for about 3 minutes until the mixture becomes light and fluffy. Next, crack in 1 large egg and continue mixing until everything is well combined. Finally, drizzle in 1/2 cup of molasses and 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Beat again until smooth, even if the mixture looks a little curdled. Don't worry, it will come together when we add the dry ingredients. Now let's bring the dry and wet ingredients together. Gradually add the dry mixture to the wet mixture, mixing on low speed. Add a little bit at a time to avoid overmixing or creating a flour cloud. Continue mixing until a thick and slightly sticky dough forms. Once it's combined, divide the dough in half. Shape each half into a disc, wrap them tightly in plastic wrap, and refrigerate for at least 1 hour. Chilling the dough helps it firm up, making it much easier to roll out and cut later. Now let's preheat the oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, 175 degrees Celsius. Then line baking sheets with parchment paper or silicone baking mats. After the dough has chilled for an hour, take 1 disc out of the fridge. Lightly flour your work surface and your rolling pin to prevent sticking. Roll out the dough to about a 1/4 inch thickness. Make sure it's even to ensure the cookies bake consistently. If the dough gets too soft, just pop it back into the fridge for a few minutes. Grab your cookie cutters and cut out your gingerbread shapes. Carefully transfer them to a parchment-lined baking sheet, placing them about 1 inch apart. If desired, sprinkle the tops with granulated sugar for a bit of sparkle. Now bake the cookies for 8 to 10 minutes in the preheated oven. Keep an eye on the edges. They should just begin to brown but not get too dark. The cookies will continue to firm up as they cool, so don't worry if they seem soft when you pull them out. Allow them to cool on the baking sheet for about 2 minutes before transferring them to a wire rack to cool completely. While the cookies cool, you can whip up a simple icing if you'd like to decorate. In a small bowl, mix together 1 cup of powdered sugar, 1 to 2 tablespoons of milk, and 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Stir until the icing is smooth and reaches your desired consistency. If it's too thick, add a little more milk. If it's too thin, add more powdered sugar. Once the cookies are fully cooled, transfer the icing to a piping bag and decorate your cookies however you like. Let the icing set before serving. And lastly, Here are some handy tips to ensure your gingerbread cookies turn out perfectly. First, don't skip the chilling step. Chilling the dough for at least an hour helps it firm up, making it much easier to roll out and cut into shapes. If the dough becomes too soft while rolling, simply pop it back into the fridge for a few minutes. This will make it easier to handle and prevent the cookies from spreading too much during baking. Next, roll the dough to an even thickness. This ensures that all your cookies bake uniformly. If you roll them too thick, you'll end up with soft centers. Too thin, and they might get too crispy. Aim for about a 1/4 inch thickness for the perfect balance between soft and crisp. When using cookie cutters, press firmly but avoid twisting them, as this can cause the dough to stretch and distort the shapes. Also, if you like, sprinkle a little granulated sugar on top of the cookies before baking for a bit of sparkle and extra sweetness. Lastly, keep an eye on the baking time. Gingerbread cookies can go from perfectly baked to overdone quickly. Look for edges that are just starting to brown. They might seem soft when you take them out, but they'll firm up as they cool. Allow the cookies to cool on the baking sheet for a couple of minutes before transferring them to a wire rack to cool completely. These tips will help you make beautifully shaped and delicious gingerbread cookies. Enjoy your homemade gingerbread cookies.